Everything changed in a matter of seconds. We are staring down the barrel of a massive, franchise-altering crossroads in the Bay Area right now. Welcome to NFL Nexus. Listen, in today's explainer, we aren't just giving you a generic news report. We're diving deep into the absolute core of the gridiron's most massive shifts. If you really want to understand the real mechanisms driving the league right now, you need to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And hey, if you truly want to support what we do here and get exclusive insights, definitely consider supporting the channel by becoming a channel member today. So, we are looking at the 2026 San Francisco 49ers. This is a team standing on the absolute precipice. The stakes for this season, they are entirely cinematic. We are talking about a historic franchise, an offensive genius of a head coach who quite literally revolutionized modern football, and a closing championship window that might completely shatter before December even rolls around.
It is the question echoing through every single hallway in Santa Clara right now. Is the Kyle Shanahan era coming to an end in a matter of seconds? Just think about the immense tension here for a minute. Shanahan is entering his 10th grueling season in San Francisco. This is a guy who built an absolute juggernaut from the ground up. He created an offensive scheme that, honestly, half the league is currently trying to copy. And he took this team to the brink of ultimate glory multiple times. Yet, he still remains without that elusive Super Bowl ring as a head coach. The weight of expectations in a market like San Francisco is just suffocating. I mean, you are constantly chasing the ghosts of Bill Walsh and George Seifert. This isn't just another season. This is a massive franchise crossroad that could literally change the entire NFL landscape overnight. The margin for error? It is at absolute zero.
So, let's break this down. There are 5 undeniable reasons why a mutual parting of ways after 2026 might be the ultimate solution for both sides. 1. Coaching fatigue. 2. A brittle, aging roster. 3. Massive trade value. 4. The NFC West gauntlet. And 5. The personal toll.
Let's dive right into reason 1, the 10-year shelf life.
Now, this is a concept that goes way beyond just X's and O's on a whiteboard. It's about human psychology, it's about locker room dynamics, and the simple, undefeated reality of time. As the legendary Bill Walsh once said, coaches and executives should seek change after 10 years with the same team. The organization gets a fresh perspective. History tells us something very clear. If a coach is going to lead a team to a championship, it almost always comes quickly. To put that into perspective, since 1977, only 2 coaches, Andy Reid in Kansas City and Bill Cowher in Pittsburgh, have won their first Super Bowl after their first 5 years with a specific team. Think deeply about Andy Reid's tenure in Philadelphia for a second. 14 seasons, 6 division titles, 5 NFC championship games, and 1 incredibly heartbreaking Super Bowl loss to the Patriots. It was an era of incredible, sustained success. But eventually, the message just expired. The locker room stopped responding with that same initial urgency. Reid needed Kansas City just as much as Kansas City needed him to reinvent himself. Shanahan's current arc in San Francisco is a stunning mirror image of Reid's time in Philly. He has 3 division crowns, 4 NFC title game appearances, and 2 agonizing Super Bowl heartbreaks. Eventually, your ability to inspire and reinvent in the exact same building just fades. A mutual parting wouldn't tarnish Shanahan's legacy in the slightest. Actually, it might be the exact rebirth he needs to finally hoist the Lombardi Trophy.
Moving on to reason 2, a brittle, aging roster.
Look, we can talk about coaching philosophy all day long, but at the end of the day, football is an incredibly unforgiving, wildly physical game, and the 49ers are stepping onto the field right now with the second oldest roster in the entire National Football League. When you actually sit down and put the names, the ages, and the trauma side by side, it is honestly horrifying if you are a 49ers fan. The NFL has a very real age cliff, and San Francisco's core is standing right on the edge of it with their toes hanging off. Look at Trent Williams, the undisputed anchor of that offensive line. He is 38 years old and he missed 7 games in 2024. Offensive tackles at that age are ticking time bombs physically. Then you have George Kittle, the absolute heartbeat of the team. He's 32 and suffered a devastating torn Achilles just this past January of 26. Christian McCaffrey is now 30. Remember, he played only 4 games in 24, and then he followed it up by leading the entire NFL with an unbelievable, bone-grinding 413 touches in 2025. Historically speaking, running backs who cross that 400-touch threshold experience a massive, unavoidable statistical cliff the following season. Nick Bosa is 28, coming off a torn ACL from Week 3 of last year. And even their young franchise quarterback Brock Purdy. He is just 26, but he was limited to merely 9 games last season due to multiple injuries. This isn't just a football roster anymore, it's practically a triage unit. The championship window isn't just closing, guys, it is slamming shut in real time right in front of our eyes.
And the contagion is spreading rapidly. It's like a wildfire. Just days into camp, third-year receiver Ricky Pearsall is dealing with a lingering PCL injury that might actually require season-ending surgery. Brandon Ayuk hasn't seen the field since tearing up his knee back in 2024, and we absolutely have to talk about the defensive implications here. Fred Warner, the unquestioned general of this defense, managed only 6 games in 25 due to an ankle injury. Warner is the linchpin of literally everything they do on that side of the ball. When a generational middle linebacker starts losing a step or missing games because of lower body injuries, the entire structural integrity of the defense just collapses. The front office is going to have to rebuild this unit from the studs up. Rebuilding an aging roster while you are simultaneously trying to squeeze through a rapidly closing championship window, that is historically one of the most difficult tasks in professional sports. So the massive question we have to ask is, will Kyle Shanahan, entering his 10th incredibly stressful season, have the patience and just the sheer energy required to reconstruct a team that has become this fragile?
Which leads us directly into reason 3, massive trade value.
If the 49ers are eventually forced to embrace a painful rebuild, they have one asset that could instantly change their fortunes, and that asset is wearing a headset. 2, that is the exact number of first-round draft picks Kyle Shanahan could easily command on the open market. San Francisco is completely capped out financially right now. They have historically struggled with hitting on their own first-round picks recently, and they desperately need an influx of premium, young, cheap talent. Trading a legendary head coach is a highly viable strategy here. We've seen the exact mechanics of this before. The Broncos traded a first- and second-round pick to the Saints for Sean Payton, and Payton wasn't even actively coaching at the time. Go back to 2002. John Gruden went from Oakland to Tampa Bay for 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and $8 million in cash. And what happened? He immediately won a Super Bowl for the Bucs. Right now, Shanahan's cutting-edge offensive mind is arguably more valuable than both of those packages were. Imagine a desperate franchise currently developing a young, generational quarterback, a team like the Bears with Caleb Williams, or whichever team eventually lands Arch Manning. Half the league would gladly mortgage their entire future for Shanahan because he guarantees you a floor of absolute offensive competence. It is a massive haul that could instantly fund San Francisco's next era.
Reason 4, the NFC West Gauntlet. You know, divisional strength in the NFL is entirely cyclical, but this current cycle, it has turned the NFC West into an absolute nightmare just to get out of your own backyard. Last season, the Niners went 12-5, and remarkably, they still finished third in this absolute bloodbath of a division. The Seattle Seahawks, led by Mike Macdonald's suffocating defensive philosophy, are the reigning Super Bowl champions. Macdonald hails from the Ravens' defensive tree, a scheme literally built to neutralize the exact offensive concepts that Shanahan runs. Then you have the Los Angeles Rams. They aren't rebuilding, they are reloading. They are the odds-on 2026 Super Bowl favorites right now, and they just drafted Ty Simpson 13th overall to seamlessly take the baton from Matthew Stafford. And the Arizona Cardinals? Well, they are currently projected to hold the #1 overall pick in what could be a historic quarterback draft in 2027, making them a terrifying future threat. The NFC West has represented the conference in the Super Bowl for the last 7 years. For Shanahan, escaping to the NFC South or the AFC South wouldn't just be a career move. It would look like a luxury vacation compared to navigating this absolute gauntlet twice a year.
And finally, reason 5, the personal toll.
We absolutely cannot ignore the human element of coaching at the highest level of professional sports. The pressure is just astronomical. Kyle Shanahan isn't just a coach. He's an offensive architect, carrying the psychological baggage of multiple historic Super Bowl collapses on the biggest stage imaginable. He doesn't hide his emotions on the sideline. He is carrying the weight of 2 Super Bowl losses in San Francisco to Patrick Mahomes, plus the lingering, crushing ghosts of the Falcons' infamous Super Bowl LI 28-3 collapse against the Patriots. It is a mental grind that demands absolutely everything from a person. But this offseason brought a terrifying new reality. On July 14th, Shanahan was involved in a severe car accident. We are carefully reporting what is confirmed here. His close friend Chris Sims stated Shanahan nearly lost an eye, and he has been dealing with severe, lingering concussion symptoms weeks later. Right now, the entire NFL community is just incredibly grateful it wasn't a larger tragedy, but it heavily underscores the absolute physical, mental, and emotional grind of his current situation. We have seen great coaches walk away for self-preservation before. Dick Vermeil walked away from the Eagles in 1982 strictly due to burnout, only to return years later to win a title with the Rams. Sean Payton needed a massive recharge away from New Orleans. To finally get that ring, Shanahan might literally have to step back and save himself first.
All right, zooming in now on a specific roster move, Deebo's 2026 return.
Let's pivot from the macro-level coaching crisis for a second and zoom in on the micro-level, immediate roster triaging the 49ers are executing right now. To stop the bleeding, San Francisco made what looks like a desperation move.
They brought back 30-year-old Deebo Samuel on a one-year, incentive-heavy deal worth up to $7 million after he spent the 2025 season with Washington. But look closely at how this changes the dynamic, especially compared to their big free agent signing, Mike Evans. Mike Evans was brought in on a 3-year deal to be the true alpha out there, running downfield routes and absolutely dominating red zone targets. Deebo, on the other hand, is being brought back specifically to operate underneath, take snaps in the backfield, and handle those manufactured touches. So why the sudden shift in philosophy? It's pretty simple. The 49ers front office is terrified of Christian McCaffrey's workload. Deebo's return is a direct response to CMC's 413 touches last year. As we mentioned, that volume is a historical death knell for running backs. They desperately need Deebo to act as a human shield to save McCaffrey's legs.
The resulting traffic jam for fantasy football managers out there is crystal clear. This target distribution is incredibly crowded and rapidly aging. Brock Purdy's passing pie is being sliced very, very thinly. There simply isn't enough passing volume in a Shanahan offense to sustain 5 mouths. We project Mike Evans commanding 30% of the targets as the primary vertical threat. McCaffrey still eats up 25% out of the backfield simply by necessity. Deebo Samuel swoops in to take 20%, heavily eating into that underneath, highly efficient work. George Kittle is projected at only 15%, a number that is heavily suppressed because he is starting the year on the active/pup list, rehabbing that devastating Achilles tear. And poor Christian Kirk, he is left with just 10% of the offensive pie.
The collateral damage here is significant, folks. Let's look at Christian Kirk's profile. He was originally brought in to be the ultimate slot weapon, right? A player who thrives on volume and mismatches over the middle of the field. Now, he is going to see his target share absolutely plummet with Deebo absorbing those exact mismatch alignments. Kirk basically becomes an afterthought in an offense that desperately needed his youth. And the timing of Deebo's signing speaks volumes about the grim reality facing Ricky Pearsall. The team is clearly extremely concerned about Pearsall's PCL injury, facing the very real possibility that he might require surgery that would cost him the entire 2026 season. Deebo isn't a luxury signing here. He is literally the emergency duct tape holding this receiving core together. So if you are drafting right now, here's exactly how you need to handle the 49ers for the 2026 fantasy season. Christian McCaffrey remains an elite RB1. The volume will undoubtedly dip slightly to preserve him for a playoff push, but his generational talent is just undeniable. Mike Evans is a touchdown-driven WR2. He will definitely feast in the red zone, but he might lack the consistent between-the-20s volume he enjoyed in Tampa Bay. Deebo Samuel? He is strictly a matchup-based late-round WR4 or flex play at best. He is a role player now, not the featured star he was 3 years ago. George Kittle? Strictly due to the recovery timeline of the Achilles, drops to a low-end TE1. The physical risk is just massive. And Ricky Pearsall? He is a strict do-not-draft candidate across all formats until the team provides a realistic, medically cleared timeline. Stay away.
Which brings us to the final verdict, a closing window.
So, it all brings our narrative full circle. We are looking at a team relying on an aging, literally duct-taped fantasy roster just to survive the absolute strongest division in professional football. So the big question remains, will 2026 be the final chapter of the San Francisco 49ers as we know them? It is a question absolutely dripping with immense tension. The horrific injuries are mounting up, the NFC West is ruthless and unforgiving, the immense draft capital from a potential head coaching trade is incredibly alluring for a capped-out front office, and the mental and physical toll on the man at the helm is undeniable. We are watching one of the most brilliant offensive minds in NFL history approach a massive, inevitable breaking point. How this season unfolds won't just affect Santa Clara, guys. It will dictate the competitive balance of the entire NFL for the next decade. This isn't over yet. In fact, the real drama is just beginning. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. If you found this breakdown valuable, you need to subscribe to NFL Nexus. Smash that like button right now and drop a comment below with your exact prediction for Kyle Shanahan's future. I want to read them all. And remember, the absolute best way to support this detailed content is to become a channel member. Until next time, keep your eyes on the gridiron.